Hi, I'm Chad with Move for Guitar. This lesson is from our series, Music Theory for Guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to explain what inversions are and show you how to play triad inversions up the fretboard. First off, download our free e-guide, Music Theory for Guitar. It contains everything that I'm talking about in this lesson, all the charts and diagrams, as well as much more, so it'll be really useful to you. And like I said, it's free, so there's no reason not to just go download that. But I am working on it right now as I'm filming this lesson, so it may not be available as you're watching this lesson. And if it's not available yet, it'll say coming soon. And if you'd like to get notified when it is available, you can sign up for our mailing list, and we'll send you a notification for when it is available and let you download it. And also, if you're signed up for our mailing list, you'll receive all updated versions as well. But don't worry, you don't need the e-guide to follow along with this lesson because all the charts and diagrams will be on the screen. And also, we add at least one new lesson every day, so be sure to subscribe. This is part 2.7 from our series, Music Theory for Guitar. If you'd like to go back and start at the beginning, you can click the link on the screen. So in all these lessons that we've been talking about triads, I've only shown them to you in root position. And root position means that the lowest note that you're fretting is the root note. So for example, here's the major triad on the 6th, 5th, and 4th string. The root note is the lowest note. This is the 6th string right here, so this is your lowest note, so that's root position. And these triads that I've been showing you are called close position triads, and that means that they're voiced root, then 3rd, then 5th. Like you've probably noticed through these lessons. It goes root, then 3rd, then 5th. And voicing, if you don't know what that means, the way a chord is voiced just means the order of the intervals. So this is voiced with root, 3rd, 5th. Instead of something that could be voiced with root, then you could have a 5th and then a 3rd. This is voiced differently than that. But we'll talk more about that later. That's not that important. I just want to explain why I said voiced. So like I said, an inversion is when a note other than the root is in the bass or as the lowest note. And we're talking about one of these notes. So another note, another interval from that chord replaces the root and the root moves up. And with triads you have two inversions. You have root position, first inversion, which puts your 3rd as the lowest note, and then second inversion, which puts your 5th as the lowest note. So inversions allow you to play on the same string set up the fretboards. So we can take this triad, this major triad, and play it up the fretboard. For example, this is technically an A major triad because that's where this root note is landing. Playing inversions would allow us to play the A major triad up the fretboard. And I'll show you how to do that right now. So this is root position. To play first inversion, what you're going to do is move your 3rd to the lowest note, and you move it to this unison note. Then the next note you move is the 5th, so you move that to that unison note, and then you move your root up in octave. And that's a little confusing to think about it like that. You could also think about it from your root, you always go to the 3rd. From your 3rd, you always go to the 5th. And from your 5th, you always go to the root. Because as you're moving up the fretboard, you're going to the next interval, the next closest interval. So root goes to 3, 3 goes to 5, 5 goes to root every single time. And the other way you can visualize that is that this is a major 3rd interval shape that you should know that by now. So that means to move this 3 to the lowest note, you move up a major 3rd interval, and that's where it lands. And then from the 3 to the 5 is a minor 3rd interval, so to move this note up to this string, I'm talking about up towards the ceiling if you're holding your guitar, you would move it a minor 3rd interval. And then the easiest way to look at moving your lowest note is just to move it up an octave. So you're staying on the 6th, 5th, and 4th string, or whatever string sets we're talking about. Right now we're talking about the 6th, 5th, and 4th string. And you're just moving each of these notes up to their next closest interval, and then that becomes your first inversion. So this shape right here is called your first inversion. So we started on an A major. That's technically where that note was landing. So this chord is still an A major triad. It's just voiced differently. Now you have the third as your lowest note, then your fifth, then your root. So it's still an A major, still functions as an A major, but it's going to sound a little different just because these intervals are changed around. And another thing about inversions is that it really allows you not only to play up the fretboard, it allows you to put different notes as your highest note, because if you're playing a melody line with chords, your highest note is what you'll hear as the melody line. So it's really important on guitar to know which note is your highest note and be able to move that around. But we'll get more into that in later lessons. I just want to point out that is an important reason to understand triads. So now to move up to second inversion, we just do the same process. The 3 moves to 5, the 5 moves to root, the root moves to 3. That happens every time because you're just moving to the next closest interval, and you end up with this shape. This is your second inversion on the 6th, 5th, and 4th string. So now it's voiced 5, root, 3. And then you just continue the same process through all the string sets. Now we're not starting with an A major anymore. This is technically a D major. I'm just showing you these triads close to the headstock down here, just lower on the fretboard so that I can move up without having to double back. So we're not worried about the actual name of the chord we're playing right now. We're just worried about how these inversions move. So here's your major triad in root position on the 5th, 4th, and 3rd string. You do the same process that we did with the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings. You just move them up to their next closest intervals, and you get the next inversion. So here's first inversion with the 3rd on the bass, and it's voiced 3, 5, root. Then here's your next inversion, second inversion with the 5th in the bass, and it's voiced 5th, root, 3rd. Then again through the next string sets, just start in root position, move the notes up to the next closest intervals. Here's first inversion, which is 3, 5, root. Do it again, you get second inversion, which is 5, root, 3. And then on the next set of strings, exact same thing. So now you have the ability to take all these triads and play them up and down the fretboard. And really you can just keep repeating them, because once you get to second inversion, you'd go up to the next closest intervals again and you'd start over. You'd start in root position again. It would just be 1 octave higher than you started down low. But I'm assuming you know that already from all the lessons you've been going through where I've explained how that works. So you can try that out on guitar. Just start in root position. It doesn't matter what chord you're playing. You don't have to worry about that right now. Just start in root position and move up to the next closest intervals like I showed you to do, and hear how it sounds moving up the fretboard. It's still the same chord. It's still a major triad if you're playing major triads. It still functions the same. It's just going to sound different because of the way the chord's voiced. And understanding inversions really opens up your playing and your knowledge on the fretboard, and can just allow you to move up and down your fretboard, creating interesting melodies and movement. And even if you were just playing one chord, you could create a lot of interest just by using inversions. And I just, like I said, showed you how to do this with major triads, but it's the exact same with the other triads. So it's the exact same with minor triads, diminished triads, augmented triads. You're just moving the notes up to the next closest interval, and those become your next inversion. So the exact same concept. I think you can figure that out by now. But all the charts, all the diagrams are in the e-guide, so you have that to look up and reference. So that's how to play triad inversions. Move on to the next lesson where I'm going to show you how to take these inversions and move them more vertically, so that you can, instead of moving up along the same string set, move up towards the ceiling with these inversions, up towards the ceiling if you're holding your guitar. So you'd actually be going from a higher inversion to a lower inversion. And that's a really handy thing to be able to do and visualize. And like I said, download the e-guide. All these charts are in there. And be sure to subscribe, because we had at least one new lesson every day.